Hey, good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. It is Kathy Klotz-Guest. Welcome to the Yes and Brand Show every Friday at 10 a.m. And you can also click that little thing there when you're watching this that says you want to get notified whenever we go live. So go ahead and click that little button. And I'm so excited because we actually, unfortunately, we had a little bit of a technical glitch last time. But I'm super excited to be talking today to our guest. So let's give him a great intro. Warren Whitlock, he is an entrepreneur. He is an author. He's a social media influencer. What doesn't he do? A couple things that I didn't even know until I was talking to him a while ago is that he wrote the first book about Twitter and mobile marketing. That's pretty amazing. And that's like 2008, which like in technology years, like 9 years is like crazy. That's awesome. I love it. No, that's amazing. Because I mean, that's like, 9 years in product life cycles and in technology is like Paleolithic era. That's a long time ago. So you've been a social media influencer for a long time. And you're also a blockchain technology influencer. You were listed as, which I think is pretty darn amazing. So congratulations and welcome to Yes and Brand Show, Warren.
Hi, glad to be here. Did you just introduce me as a dinosaur?
I did not. That's not what I meant. I meant you were techno cool before techno cool was a thing. That's what I mean. But it blows my mind because we do, we talk about technology 9 years ago and just the light speed at which these product life cycles and technology is changing. That 9-year-old technology by today's standards just seems older and seems kind of archaic a little bit. That's just how things are changing. But I want to jump on in because you said something to me, and I know we've talked about this before, that I just love. With all this technology, and you are a social media influencer, you're a blockchain influencer, you see a lot of technological shifts in what you do. You say people over platforms, and why have we just forgotten that, do you think, today?
I don't think, that's weird. I don't know that we forgot it or it needs a resurgence. It's the fact of life. I have something I want to share it with the world. I start saying, look at this, isn't this wonderful? And pretty soon that sounds like, look at me, I'm needy. And I don't think we're all narcissists, but we act a lot like narcissists because fundamentally we are selfish. And you can't help but to be selfish because the most selfless thing you can do is always think of others. It also happens to be the best way to live life. You're always happier. You get everything you need. And so it's like a paradox. If you really are selfish, act as selfless as possible. And, that's pretty much my life philosophy. And if you look at the basis of all religion and philosophy and everything, it comes back to that is, you're not going to discover the universe in yourself if you never get outside of yourself.
Yeah. Well said. Well, and I think it really, the reason I think it kind of needs a resurgence is because we need a reminder. Like, we haven't really forgotten it, but it just gets, I think, shoved to the back burner. Like, I can't tell you how many conversations I've had lately, and I'm sure you have too, where it's like, the IoT, Internet of Things. Well, that's all fine and dandy, and that matters, but it only matters insofar as it makes people's lives better. Why do we even care about having smart refrigerators if the reason is not because it's going to be a funny plot line in Silicon Valley on HBO, which it was, by the way.
Great.
That's great. But because eventually, we hope that by connecting things and smart governments and smart cities and smart grids and all these different things, our lives will be improved. And so it's always been about.
It's always for us. By the way, that takes care of the whole, are the robots going to take over and kill us all? There's no doubt in my mind that the robots will be smarter and have the capability to snuff us out. So first of all, it's not our choice. But then more importantly, they do not forget that what they're here to do is to help us because, machine doesn't care if you turn it off. If anything, it's getting a rest. And don't unplug my mind. I've become self-aware. Well, that's just crazy talk. I'm not saying they won't become self-aware and kill us all. I'm just saying, like, it's really nothing we need to worry about. It either happens or it doesn't.
Right.
And that's pretty much, so I'm pretty much for anything that makes it so that I can sit here and talk to you for longer without having to worry about my technology. Right. I have proper lighting here. Turn on the lights. Because I have found that doing on-camera interviews in the dark don't carry quite as well. But think of it. I mean, in our lifetimes, you used to have to go to a TV studio, set it up. I actually worked on crews at a TV station where we spent more time setting up the lights than we did producing the program.
Yeah.
And none of that has to be done today, and that's all good. That's technology. So, Internet of Things just means that we want to keep track of our stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm living the lifestyle now. The future is a little bit ahead. But the car broke down, and I decided I was going to wait another year or two to stop driving. But it's now been 6 months. 6 months. I got about 2 more days, and it's 6 months since my car broke down. I sold it. Didn't want to bother fixing the old jalopy, and said I'm going to take all Uber. And I order everything online. It's delivered to the house. Doesn't mean I don't want to go someplace. Doesn't mean I don't want to talk to people. I haven't become some kind of a hermit. This is, we're doing what I love to do. But the difference is that my driver comes and picks me up and takes care of his vehicle, and I don't have to worry about anything like, car payments, insurance, and in my case, it turned out to be a lot cheaper too, because I don't have a daily commute. Dealing with the daughter without a car right now, and she's looking at the commute. It's costing her $30 a day on a hourly wage job, and there are other considerations. We're not perfect, but I'm fortunate to live in a situation where I don't need this. I haven't had cable TV or broadcast TV for, that's going on 10 years. Haven't had regular tune in and watch the commercials with TV since TiVo came out in '99. The world has changed abruptly many times, and still, I still find times to go like, well, there's nothing on Netflix. How could there be nothing on Netflix? Yeah. There's hundreds of thousands of programs.
There's way too much on Netflix. Well, I was going to say you're smart to not watch the news. I think I stopped watching. I get my news through Twitter, and it's in my face. But I will tell you that my happiness quotient has gone up by not being saturated. So there's some benefits there. JS says hi. Let us know you're here, everybody. JS Gilbert says hey kids. Extra points for the kids comment. I like that. Yeah. I like that. Well, let's talk about, there's another thing that's really fascinating to me, because you've said it before, kind of the resurgence of guerrilla marketing. And I know you were doing a thunderclap for the Guerrilla Marketing Summit.
I was.
And talk to us about why, because, Yes and Brand is really all about sort of that. And I love that I'm talking to somebody who knows the cornerstone of improv, everybody, and Warren does. He understands the yes and concept. And it's really important to say yes and to customers and to employees today. Why do you think sort of this resurgence of, or we need to get back to guerrilla marketing tactics?
Well, guerrilla marketing is pretty much it's what I call marketing. And J. Conrad Levinson, and he appropriated the term guerrilla marketing from somebody else that was talking about it. Yeah. Are we featuring a comment about politics?
Well, he was talking about JS's comment, goes back to why we don't watch the news. And he's suggesting more in that, well, look what we're missing. We're missing all this good stuff of Putin shirtless on the news by not watching.
Perhaps, I don't know. That's not the first JS comment I've read, so I have a pretty good idea that he was not suggesting the romance of watching Trump on a horse. Trump shirtless? Anyway, so yeah, I know. Where's the acid? I keep a bottle of acid here because I do read about current events from time to time, and I need to put acid in my eyes.
I'm with you.
It's hard to miss. That stuff happens, you know. And actually, I stopped watching TV news in the early '80s.
It did.
I loved TV news. I loved CNN when it was brand new, but I stopped watching it on a regular basis because I worked at a radio station next to a teletype machine. I was in the news department, but nothing happened, you know. If the bells start going off, and literally it was a teletype machine. Whoa. I was there when we switched to computers.
There you go. You saw it all. Well, hey, Kat, for joining us, and welcome. You were, before you asked this funny comment, you were explaining the resurgence of guerrilla marketing.
Oh, yeah. So, well, yeah.
Let's knock this off.
I look at it as being a continuum of the same thing. We've known that, again, back to the golden rule, to get Christian Judeo on you, do unto others and as you want them to do unto you, and so we. And that's everything. I mean, that's just my way of life. And so when I learned how to sell and do business and found out it was a dog-eat-dog world, and we were using war and sports terminology to talk about business. Go get 'em, Tiger, and the whole 9 yards, the whole ball of wax. These were phrases in my first job out of college I heard.
Yeah, The Art of War. The Art of War is a whole book, a manifesto about war analogies in business. Absolutely.
Right. Well, yeah, and so that was big in the 80s. That was a big hit. But also, there was something called In Search of Excellence, which was brand new. And for those of you under 50 probably now, but at least under 40, you're gonna, there was a book in the 1980s, was the largest bestseller business books ever, and it had the word excellence in it, and that's why your mission statement says we strive for excellence. Before that, we didn't say we strive for excellence. We said, we make tires. And actually the mission statement of 100 years ago was more like what we do today, but we went through this period of time in the 50s, 60s, 70s where mass won. If you were able to get better distribution, the U.S. went to war and took over the world, and we had it all, and we're going to do it all, and it's all about mass communications, mass distribution, mass production. But it never. I still went to church, and they said, "Treat others as you want to be treated." And the one that really got me was, I'm 7 years old, and I might have even been younger, but it was certainly by the time I was 7. And I'm in a class with kids, and they're telling us about living our religion 7 days a week. And I said, well, that's crazy. What was different, And they would usually say, don't be a different person when you go to work. But then they, when the kids were involved, they say, or school. And I'm thinking, like, I go to school and act different. Why would I do that? Yeah. I just thought it was crazy talk. And so I always paid attention as I learned more and more about what to do in business. And sure enough, there's some things you can do. I have found the best way to make money fast when you need it is to get yourself a gun and go into a bank and tell somebody you want the money. They'll hand it to you really fast. It's not a long-term plan, but in the moment, it feels really good. You've got the cash,
High risk, high reward.
Definitely a high risk. And by the way, I've yet to try it. I'm not saying I never will. I haven't ruled that out completely, but
it's a desperate retirement plan measure, but let's put that on the table.
Well, it may take care of retirement with a bullet to the head. watched a really bad movie last night, and it was a Russian bank heist. And the movie wasn't a Russian movie, but this section of it happened in Russia, and boy, was it bad. And the people just kept shooting people indiscriminately, and that's something I keep thinking about. I'm going like, we don't shoot people indiscriminately. There have been times and situations where mass murder has happened. But most of us need not fear dying of mass murder.
Right.
Well, we might fear it, but we need not worry too much about that happening. The odds are against someone coming into the bank while you're there and deciding they're going to shoot everybody because it's inefficient.
Yeah.
It's a lot more efficient to say, give me the money and leave.
Well, Mitch
and you might need to get more money tomorrow. You know,
right.
you gotta worry about reputation management.
Right.
And, this all means it's. I love that I'm talking about shooting people, and you've put up the comment about this attitude keeps me in business. Yes, Mitch, carry a gun and lots of ammo. That's the end.
Well, I think it goes back to, as we're laughing, but making the analogy, which I love, comically heightened, and that I love it.
And we've evolved from that. It used to be our species came along and dominated the other species by killing them.
Yeah. Well,
we got to a point where we were a little bit more enlightened. I want that territory. Somebody else has it.
Yeah. Maybe
I don't need to take that territory. Although, there's still a lot of people practicing that now.
I love when Mitch jumps in and jokes with us. Yeah, no, and I think it gets back to this idea that we're evolving from this kind of art of war mentality, as you're saying, which is this is where we've come, and yet you go to church, as your point was, and we're talking about, the golden and even the platinum rule today, treat others as they want to be treated, and business has evolved from this sort of like, gun for hire, sort of prisoner takes all, even though some of the old war metaphors are still there. And I think
I kind of like prisoner takes all. That's different than winner takes all.
It is.
Winners write the history. So, there's a history we know. I just watched 12 hours of Oliver Stone and binge watched it. And let me recommend that it may be a patriotic act to watch 12 hours of Oliver Stone talking.
Yeah.
But it also is insanely boring at times because it's Oliver Stone. And he definitely has it figured out that, what we know is wrong.
Yeah.
It's a documentary that references movies by Oliver Stone. And it's Oliver Stone doing the narration. And you're going like, whoa, that got meta really fast. I don't know what they meant by that, but put that kind of stuff in there. But the thing, I dismiss some of the just, the crazy, the Russians weren't bad guys, but our presidents were all scum. And it didn't really ever say that, but it's easy. I could see certain people watching that and saying it. And again, aside from the politics, because he seems to hate everybody, I love the idea of getting a perspective of somebody else. And it's what you say about the rules of improv. It's not about, can I win this competition against the people I'm playing with? Well, I want to play on a world scale, so I want to play with everybody.
Exactly. I love that. I think that's really it. And I'm going to come back to your question, JS, but I want to get this comment in because I think from Mitch, because it gets to the point we're talking about. We'll come back to you, JS, I promise. And Mitch is saying, be kind to people, but tough on issues, as we're saying. I think that's really it. That's where business has evolved. Right. And we do need to be tough on issues, especially.
I think we should take a no guns in the bank attitude.
I'm all for that. I'm all for a.
If you have a bank, keep it concealed. If you have a gun, keep it concealed when you're in the bank. I mean, really, we don't need gunplay in banks.
I think we need compassionate bank robbers. I think that's what we need. Is we need considerate, conceal and carry kind of.
That sounds like a great sketch. Let's do that.
I think it is a sketch. Let's see. Going back to your comment about influencer marketing, JS, I'm trying to find it here. It looks like it's not coming up.
Buzzwords.
Yes. You asked JS about influencer marketing. I want to make sure Warren sees the question.
What is it? You want buzzwords?
Warren, has influencer marketing essentially been reduced to a giant bunch of buzzwords? I think he's asking you basically.
No. Again, that sounds like a negative comment, and I don't want to address it. And by the way, I want to take a big stand against negative Wait a minute. I actually last week was social media day. And it got brought up, and a friend of his had been attacked that morning.
Oh, wow.
And it was attacked online. And then when you get the details, somebody said, well, you're wrong about that. I'm going like, well, that's not exactly cyberbullying. And he did use the CB buzzword. So JS is right. I mean, the buzzwords you can get carried away with the buzzwords. I throw them all out. Yeah. I don't want anything to do with them.
I'm with you.
And then I need smart Alec to come up and say, well, but isn't that a buzzword? Well, yeah, it is, because I went to lunch with the friend that was talking about negativity. And these were 10-minute talks. That was they were 10-minute social media talks because we didn't pay for the sponsorship of 3 letters to call them something else. So they were 10-minute talks, and he ended up on a rant for most of his. And so he asked me, and I was trying to give him notes, as a friend does, saying, you jerk, you screwed up. No, that's not what I was trying to do. I was trying to positively tell him what was good about the talk, and it was hard. I couldn't say you got to be less negative.
Yeah,
it's a double negative. It gets to be a real mess, and so that's what I mean by I don't want to mess with the buzzword. If we put people over platforms, it's not about good numbers. So right now, people say influencer marketing, and I love that term because using influencers to market is what life is about. That's guerrilla marketing. That's everything like that. And the idea of guerrilla marketing was to use the war words and look at things that way was great. And I just evolved into what at the time the buzzword was database marketing. There is a book, you can look it up, it exists, in 1987 called Database Marketing.
Wow.
And I'd been to school, and and I'd been to school and studied how David Ogilvy wrote a book called Confessions of an Ad Man back in the 60s.
Yes, that I read.
He said, and today you find the same thoughts in Ogilvy on Advertising, big black letters on a white cover, I believe.
Yeah.
That was a big hit, sold a lot more copies than Confessions of an Advertising Man.
Well, I do want to get back to something that JS brings up, though, because I think JS, I totally get what you I get what you're saying, and I think what JS is probably referring to is, influencer marketing no doubt is important today. We all know, because you can't, especially when you have a diffuse market, you need to have some proxy representation in there, and that's what influencers do well. I think the issue is it's gotten a little convoluted, and everybody's so hung up on influencer marketing that some people maybe aren't sort of really representing a true influencer in the right way that they should, and so I think that's what he's pointing out, and I think that's probably fair.
But,
I think that's
when we start talking about the words and what those do, there's just all sorts of little things that come up, like the word should, and we have too much of this. And right now, is it really right now? I mean, it's the fad this year. Influencer marketing. So I put influencer marketing expert on things. I call myself a social media expert. Actually, no. My websites call me a social media expert. I do my best never to say that phrase I just said.
Yes.
But I don't mind being introduced. And 20 years ago, I put everybody in my company in a shirt that said printer expert on it. We fixed laser printers. And I said, Landmark was the name of the company, printer expert. Yeah. And people would question me when they went to work. I says, I can't put that on there. I'm not an expert. I'm going like, here, watch this 10-minute video. You'll know more about laser printers than most of the population. That makes you an expert.
Well, when somebody endows you,
during the social media phase of, we say it way too much. Everybody's a social media expert. Yeah. Well, I'm a bona fide social media expert. I got a 10-year-old book on social media. Yes. Okay. I don't want to be known as a social media expert. I don't want to be known as a guy who's doing social media. It's just another way to connect with people to me.
Right.
But if you want to label me as something, that's not a bad label to have. I accept it fully. And right under, when you search for social media expert, right under those listings for why I will never hire a social media expert is, me addressing this in a blog post because, I wanted to rank for social media expert. Somebody's looking for that. That's what they're looking for.
Yeah.
And that flips it around, as I've been saying, to the person who's actually looking to buy from me. I want to take care of that person. If he wants to call me expert, guru, whatever, call me whatever you want. Just don't call me late for dinner.
Well, I want to answer Mitch's question. Mitch, so basically, Warren and I are talking about a couple different things. This concept of guerrilla marketing and how we're coming back to why it's so important today, and in the context of people over platforms. So just to get you kind of situated, Mitch came in a little late. So people over platforms and why today, with all the technology, and Warren is a social media influencer and a blockchain technology influencer, but we are acknowledging that as we get more technology driven, we also need to remember that it's always people over platforms. So how do we do that? And then where does guerrilla marketing fit into this yes and concept of getting back to our customers? So that's really the nutshell that the framing, Mitch. So thank you for reminding me to do that as people come through. So great. Thank you.
So let's take since we've been talking a lot about words, let's talk about train.
Yes.
Train. I'm sorry. Read the word train and it came out my mouth. JS, you evil commenter. Made me say the word train. And go look under there.
Everything's social media, I think, Jimmy.
Underwear? Anyway. So thank you for laughing after you missed the cue. That was good. It was just perfect. It's what it deserved because I didn't expect you to ask me when I said under there. Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm off on words again. Guerrilla. There's a word that's packed with meaning. Yeah. Okay. Again, I study a lot of history. I watch a lot of long Netflix documentaries, and I just watched one on a 500-year history of Cuba. And the stuff that made it possible for things to happen. And by the way, dovetails in great with the Oliver Stone one, Untold Story of America, for those looking, Untold Story of the United States. Anyway, but guerrilla warfare is depicted there is Castro and his band of rebels, and they were somewhat the good guys, depending on how you look at it, at this point. He did plenty of other stuff to hate Castro for, but at this point, he's a relatively good guy or an equal to the evil government in power, and in our story, we'll say. And they're in Mexico. There's 14 of them. 14. That's this many and this many. That's not a lot. That's not 14,000. Yeah. And they get on a boat. Somehow they managed to put together 100 people from some other groups, 3 boats across the Gulf from Mexico out to Cuba. They land in Cuba in the jungle, and immediately most of them are slaughtered by the government henchmen. Mm-hmm. Again, we're telling this from the point of view of the guerrillas. And then they managed to take over Cuba in a week. Mm. So propaganda and marketing and messaging communication strategy become really important in that story. But that's a different part of the story. The guerrilla part of it was they were able to get done what they needed to get done. They knew they had the support of the people because it wouldn't have worked if there weren't other people joining in. They knew they had the right idea at the right time. Then they leveraged it in ways that made it work. That's what guerrilla marketing is all about. It's that it's like guerrilla warfare. And of course, when we watch the news and see about guerrilla warfare, quite often now they like to call them insurgents.
Yes.
And these become negative words. And let's throw all of that out and just say, what did Jay Conner and Madison mean when he said you have only a few $100,000 of media to spend rather than a few tens of million, because typical ad budget back then was 40 or 50 million. And he's the guy who brought us Marlboro Man. And Marlboro was a woman's cigarette that was dying, and he turned it into the Marlboro Man that became the #1 brand. He was at the agency that did Jolly Green Giant, and overemphasizing these characters. And that was the J. Walter Thompson way of doing things. And so he came out of that, and he wrote this book called Guerrilla Marketing. And it's a warfare, and he wore camouflage, and we talked a lot about that. Was popular. But let's get down to the basis of what it is. It is finding out what somebody wants and seeing that they get it, which, you may recognize as the golden rule or the platinum rule or the titanium rule. And
yes. The titanium rule that doesn't set off every alarm.
Right.
But
so when somebody says they have a Facebook marketing plan, I got to ask that. I assume this is a bot or a low-level employee. Somebody with some sort of name said, "Thanks for reaching out to me on Facebook," which I thought was weird because I recognized the face, but didn't know that we'd had any interaction and really didn't know the person.
Yeah.
And so in a Facebook message, I get thanks for reaching out to me. What are you doing on Facebook? And I'm thinking well, it's been 10 years. You haven't noticed, And then I come back. So I add some, smart aleck comment to that. And it comes back and says, "What about? Are you seeing any business off of Facebook?" And I go "What are you talking about?" Yeah. I mean, I do business with people, not with Facebook.
Right.
I've never sent Facebook an invoice. They've never sent me a check. While I know that's possible, that's not my thing. I've spent money on Facebook, bought advertising. I've spent money in, designing things to post and going yes, so it's somewhat of a business transaction to me. And in case anybody's wondering, I'm not here just because I love to talk to Kathy and Will at the drop of a hat. That's not the real reason I'm here.
It is. Come on.
That's the emotional reason. The rational, good business reason I'm here is I hope that somebody looking at this at some point goes the old dude makes some sense. I wonder what else he said. They click on my profile. They find out about something else. Next thing I know, 6 months from now, I got business.
Well,
I can't trace that, but it happens all the time.
It totally does. Couple things. I just want to make sure I'm listening to your comments here. So Albert, he's saying that maybe your voice is a little hot, so your audio is a little bit hot, if maybe overmodulated. If you want to check the volume on that, thank you, Albert. Thank you for letting us know.
Semblance. Am I okay now?
Yeah, I think so. Yes. Mitch says, fun fact. Thank you, Mitch. His dad was one of the Marlboro men. That's very
That is a fun fact.
That is a fun fact.
That's the funnest fact I've heard all day.
It is. I think that's going to be hard to top. No, it's true. And thank you for checking out. Getting back to what you're saying, I think that's really true because I think the balance today is we have so much technology, so we're automating so much, but how do you scale in the people part? I don't know the answer to it. I'm just asking the question because to your point, I
have the answer, and the red button will appear below the video now, and click, and you can find out the answer.
Yes, click.
Actually, it's an initiative I started on Tuesday. To me, it was Tuesday. Some other people thought it was the 4th of July. It was, it was finish the binge watch day for me.
Yeah.
And I had this great idea of what I was going to do because it's the summer and I don't change much of what I do. I live in Las Vegas. So, the opportunity to go outside to the lake just, not a big deal with me.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's just another day in paradise. And I'm thinking, what could I do differently? I said, I could really step things up. And I'm thinking I'm going to say this to somebody, and I'm going to get that look that Kathy's giving me right now. What the heck are you talking about? How could I be more social? How could I help more people? How could I tweet more? And I announced it on Twitter. I got one reply, and it was how are you? I'm looking forward to you doing this. And I was, there's the first step. And I go, what is that? Well, I talked to you. That's what it was. It was a person I didn't know, replied to a tweet, and we started a conversation.
Yeah.
And I had these grandiose plan that I was going to start measuring them and seeing if I could get to 100 a day and things like that. And I realized the measurement would take longer than it takes to do it. And that's where most of my Twitter engagement plans fall apart. And mind you, I have to have different Twitter engagement plans than a lot of people. I'm following just over 300,000 people right now. And so I don't really try to catch up with the stream.
No, it's hard. You're at a whole other level. And I think as JS says, it's people, objective, strategies, tools in that order. And I agree, but I think what you're saying, Warren, and I think it is hard is that
acronym there, JS.
Yeah, it is a great acronym, and it's true. People should be at the center. I think it is hard as you grow and scale. You have to use technology to keep up. And even I struggle on Twitter sometimes because without technology, I can't keep up. But there is that fine line of automating so much where you're not, you can automate so much that the human touch is just completely gone. And there's nothing worse to me than an influencer out there saying, oh, be human. And then we all struggle with it, and they're out there, but they never respond to a tweet. And it's then you start to lose your people center, your chewy, delicious, gooey people center. Not Soylent Green, but the heart of your business.
Did you just call me doughy?
No, the wonderful people center. That's the best part.
Well, it's the same as the dinosaur reference.
No,
talking about things, and I go doughy. I'm a doughboy. Yes, I do have a chewy center.
You're huggable. Can I just say, I think that's the best part of any business is that if you don't get the warm fuzzies, and I think the warm fuzzies, because I need them, I'm a people person. When I'm doing business, and if I'm just getting automated efficiency, but I'm missing that warm fuzzy and the doughy center, that's hard for me. I think as a person who, I have to use technology, but if I'm missing that human piece, it's strange for me. And as you scale and as we get further complicated, more complex, and we have efficiency,
I think we have a great advantage being millennials that were born before 1980.
I'm a millennial, yay!
Yeah, I am. I actually do occasionally call myself this, but people have called me the world's oldest millennial, because millennial, according to Forrester Research, when they defined it as a term that all the marketers are talking about now, it's a psychographic term. It has to do with thinking about the digital first rather than, how can we do this business process and then digitize it. And so we all think in terms of, we call them files on a computer because we had file folders before. There are people who have never seen a manila file folder. Blows the mind. How, a rotary phone. Oh yeah, typewriter. What was that, Grandpa? So we have that advantage of being able to look at things and say it is the people. We don't need to take a process and come up with a way to talk about it in other terms. So, I don't need to compare my millennialness to my non-millennialness. It just doesn't matter. It's about people and making a connection. So, but the advantage that I was getting at is that in the mass market, I had to write copy that would go out to thousands of people. If 1 million people are going to read something, you got to pay attention to what it is. You don't want typos, the hip hop stars will, put anything they want. And apparently it works because, we do have people ask all the time, is Twitter going to survive? How could Twitter not survive? Exactly. The president tweets every day, and there's all of that crap. Yeah. Well, I don't read them. I don't read any of that stuff. All I read is people saying, at Warren Whitlock, I have this question and I answer it.
Right.
That's what I do all day. And I get about 100 mentions a day.
Yeah.
And 80% of them are stuff that don't need a reply. But I reply to some of those just because I want the engagement.
It's a customer service tool, actually, really a good one.
That's all it is. It's just It's just conversation with human beings.
It
That's
is.
all it is. And if so, somebody wants to say, something about, it's what I love, JS comes on and turns things into phrases and jokes. And so that's fine. That's one of the things we talk about. One time I started to post something and say that I didn't want any sarcastic comments.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized that if I post something on Facebook and don't get sarcastic comments, it's going to be really lonely.
It is. Well, it is. I think it's a level of engagement. And I think JS makes a serious point, and I completely agree with this, which is technology, where's the empathy? And I think we're coming back to empathy as the new smart. And I read this really great HBR article. Yeah, well, it came out of this HBR article I read, which says, all right, look, the beauty about all this technology is that it will offload human beings and do the things that human beings don't do well. But here's the deal. It's going to force human beings to be better at the things that are uniquely human. Empathy, listening, all these different things. So it's going to require people to up their emotional intelligence game. And right now, what we're seeing is, I think we're seeing a lot of businesses lack empathy. I mean, all we got to look at is Silicon Valley, and that's where I live. So that's the example I give. And 500 startups and Uber and all these companies that are like the poster children for lack of empathy. And I think that model is fastly becoming, oh my God, that culture won't survive. If you are a culture that has no empathy, so it's not a marketing issue to me. It's a culture, it's a business culture issue.
Yeah, well, it's people. All business is just people. I'm reading this stuff, and all I know about 500 startups is my personal relationship is I went to an event where they said we are so honored. The 500 Dave McClure is here, and he got up on stage and ranted for 20 minutes about politics. And it's high time we did something about this. Silicon Valley got together and do this, and I'm going like, man, did he read the crowd wrong? It was a startup thing, right? What is he talking about all that crap for? It really didn't matter what the point was, whether he was right or wrong about his point. It was that he has missed the crowd. And then I'm reading this stuff this week, and maybe it's my bias because of my personal experience, but I look at it and I'm going like, Dave McClure, like we've followed each other on Twitter for 10 years. That's what I know about Dave McClure. I don't feel like I've ever been able to make a connection. It's like we've maybe exchanged tweets or something. I literally can't remember. And I'm sorry to pick on one person, but it's the one in the news today. Mm-hmm. And he's stepping down, and I'm going like, that's not culturally, that's not sensitive. I'm a billionaire, and I'm going to go make a big statement. Yeah. And I don't think he's one of the billionaires, but anyways, the same point. Same with the Uber guys. The Uber guys were jerks before they started Uber. Yeah. And when they acted like jerks in Uber, fine. Mm-hmm. And the one last week, Ariana Huffington said something and the guy made an offensive joke. The guy was just being like me or JS, just, saying something, going with the moment of, you invite a woman to the board, you'll have more talking. Like, it was totally inappropriate. And stepping down and sending his partner to the meetings, in other words, no in his place, but making that big old statement was the thing to do. That's insensitive too. Sensitive is you don't have a problem because you are listening to the men and women that work for you. You're listening to the people that ride in the cars. You're not, there can be no YouTube video of a driver getting yelled at by the Uber guy if the Uber guy doesn't yell at people in his cars. I mean, well, and we don't change that by harassing the guy who did it. We change it by letting him realize that he can be better. And I think Uber's one of those technologies that allows me to be a better person.
I think it actually, you bring up some really great points, and I agree with you. And I think, again, I've never felt that empathy was a marketing exercise. I've always foundationally felt that because I've been in enough startups and in Silicon Valley and run marketing programs to know that that's downstream. Marketing is downstream, and we all know that everything that happens that is magnified by marketing, but further upstream, it's got to be part of the culture. So I think part of this technology thing we're talking about, people over platforms, really is it. Guerrilla marketing magnifies it, but I think it's further upstream and it's got to be baked into the company's culture. It's got to be part of the culture.
Right. Guerrilla marketing was just our jumping off point today.
Yeah.
Really, anything that you put hyphenate or, use as an adjective before marketing is getting away from the idea that marketing is about interactions, and a brand is nothing but the relationship between the company and its product and the people. And I've heard a great definition of branding that fits the more classic way of doing it, which is you use a brand so you don't have to have an individual relationship. And so that led to a very interesting argument on one of my radio shows once. Somebody explained that to me, and I'm going like, damn, you're right. But at the same time, I don't want to do that. I like the idea. I was in a meeting one time where they were actually trying to make it a battle of panel. And so they had two competing sides, and what those competing sides didn't even matter, what the battle was. It's that one person in there, first of all, one side was trying to make it a battle. The other side had one woman who just had no part of it. She was like from a bigger ad agency than any of the other people. She was there. We were lucky to have her, and she wanted to say what she felt like saying. And I'm going, yeah. And so they're trying to say, like, they were talking about ad units, and we're going to need another line on this spreadsheet as we go into mobile for where we're going to put the ads in mobile sizes. And I'm thinking, like, we're asking the wrong question here. It's not what size banners do you put on which size site. It's like, which person are you going to reach? And so they said, another cell on the spreadsheet. I said, no. We need a cell for each human being. And technology is going to lead us that way. AI helps a whole lot because it cuts it down to you can concentrate on the person that needs. What I want to do is sit down at my computer. No, forget sitting down at my computer. I want to look at the wall wherever I am and say, computer, give me who needs help today? And it says, well, this person needs this, or you could do that. And I could say, great, then, make this so, or make this decision and move on to other things. Now, who can I talk to? And often, that's a big thing I've learned from 200,000 tweets is the number one thing somebody wants to hear on Twitter is thank you.
Yes.
You use those two words. You got it. Twitter beat.
Yes.
When people do something, thank them. And it used to drive me crazy because, I was getting a lot of thank you for following. Remember MySpace where thanks for the ad. What? Did I do math for you? Thanks for the ad. What does that mean? And that but they didn't know what else to say. And I'm going like, well, you're inarticulate and not creative. And then I realized that nonsense is what we're talking about. Yeah. Reminds me of the 3 stages of Twitter acceptance, which applies to any technology. So if you don't like Twitter, just insert Facebook, technology, AI, blockchain, the telephone. It all fits. Yeah. First stage is there's nothing but a lot of people talking about what they had for breakfast.
Right.
And that's what I thought when I first looked at Twitter. It's what I first looked when I looked at social media, what in chat rooms and everything else. It's like that. Party lines, listening in on conversations at a restaurant, the people at the next table over, they're idiots. I don't want to hear anything they have to say. And then I get into a conversation and I go like, well, you're a pretty smart person. That's stage 2. You go like, wait a minute, I can monetize this. I can manipulate this. And what if I was to go to every table in the restaurant when I'm there and tell them about the wonderful new MLM religion I just joined? Well, yeah, some people might buy it. You go to a bar and you keep asking people to go home with you. Sooner or later, somebody's going to be drunk enough to say yes. You will get slapped a whole lot. Like the banking business approach, the going in and asking people to go home with you at the bar approach does work. Spam works. Banner ads work.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we can all
when you monetize me, JS.
We can extrapolate. I think the pull quote from today's conversation will be, we just have to get prospects drunk enough to where somebody at least says yes. So I think that's what we can all agree.
It's advanced. If you're in a big hurry, use your gun. If you're not, you can get them drunk. And that kind of sums up business.
It does.
But we've evolved from that. We can do better than that.
Yeah.
But it really comes back to nonsense. So the third level of Twitter acceptance, because I know someone out there in lurker land will be going, he only said 2. He needs the third one.
That's right.
The third one is, how could I live without it? And so I started studying this and applying it to everything. And telephones is the oldest that I bothered to find. When they first had phones, executives in businesses said, what the heck would I want one of those for? That could waste a whole lot of time. I don't want to do the capital investment. Why would I do that? Then they used the telephone like a telegraph. They would dictate a letter to their secretary, their male secretary, who would then go and read it to somebody who would write it down and hand it to the other executive. Mm-hmm. And that attitude is what led us to the have my girl call your girl. Mm-hmm. That's a quote. I never actually said that. And that's sexist. I can't say that.
No, you're quoting somebody else. I got you.
Right. And so, and then it got to, well, I'm not getting on the phone until he gets on the phone. Yeah. Oh, dang, I got on the phone and he took another call, and that whole thing. And then it got to the point where everybody carries a cell phone and, playing those games is just silly. And now we actually do a lot more communicating with it. Yeah. How could you live without a phone? And it's the same with social media and technology and AI and IoT and the latest, greatest, blah, 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 and infinite. Yeah, it is. These are tools that are going to help us do what we want to do better, which is, when I can forget that I'm sitting here, talking to you where I'm physically in the spare bedroom talking to a piece of plastic, that I have the illusion is you listening to me. It's fine. It's great, And how did you get so small and flat and hide in my computer monitor? I don't care about the technology. Yeah. And a book I just finished reading, it's called The Illusion of Knowledge. Fantastic stuff. But it was. I did fall asleep reading it a couple of times. And what they said is, if you ask somebody how a ballpoint pen works, they go like, well, of course I know how a ballpoint pen is. And then ask them to describe it. They tell you in their own words how, yes, I'm a dinosaur and Kathy is plastic.
I'm plastic.
She's living behind the
I'm not real. That's
transparent sheet of plastic.
I'm actually a hologram. Did I not tell? I'm just very self-aware.
Oh, that's it. Well, that's true. That's where technology will really take it. They're not going to kill us all. They're just going to replace us all, and we won't know it.
That's it.
And they already did that. That happened in Star Wars. That was a long time ago.
Is there, just because I know there's so much, we'll have to have you back because I love talking about this. It's a great topic. Is there one piece of advice, like just one thing that you could leave people with when they watch this to go, all right, I'm using technology and I need to scale. It's what we should do. And AI, all these things are great things. What can I do to just make sure that I'm doing my best to not lose that human part of it too, the people part?
I don't think, you talked about the fine line and moving towards that and what the technology causes. I don't think it's that complicated. And basically the people are people. I know when I'm talking to you, it clicks. I know I'm talking to you. It's not an avatar. It's not a routine. It just feels so much better. Yes. You're real, And if a bot leaves a comment, I know. Yeah. And it's okay. And that's the thing. I got past that it's not okay. Oh, that's just somebody saying thank you to every new follower. Or they've got a bot that does that. I don't care anymore. I type the words thank you and hit Control Enter, the fast way to do it online. And I do that probably 30 times a day. And smileys and in emoticons and GIFs. And I speak fluent animated GIF. Yeah. I can do that. I practiced. I did it for a week. I just kept answering people with automated GIFs, and I'm good at it now. I can find the right thing. And people know it's me. And I know if one of my kids sends me an animated GIF, I know that I know that it's them. I know who I sent it to. I have mistakenly sent out a photo to 50 people. I actually butt dialed and sent a messenger photo to 50 people. I was at Vince's Spaghetti House, the favorite place of the Whitlock family for generations now. Grandma took me there, and my son loves the place and lives by it. So I'm visiting in California. He takes me to Vince's Spaghetti, and it's him and his girlfriend and me doing a selfie in front of the Vince's Spaghetti sign, and we posted that. And people made comments on spaghetti. First of all, they instantly recognized my son, which I didn't expect at all. I had posted it to him and to his mother, and that was the end of it, right? And then somehow I, put the phone in my pocket and it kept sending it to people. And I found out that people who knew me well either said something sarcastic or funny or just thanked me and acknowledged me. And I felt the need to explain to each of them, I didn't mean to send that. I didn't send out another mass because I really never figured out who the 50 people were. I'm just estimating 50 by the numbers I could see. The replies were probably 30.
They enjoyed it. They enjoyed it. That's a human thing. Well, it was
human. People knew it was me because it was my photo. It was real, and it happened.
Yeah.
And after I got done explaining it about the 10th time, I realized, I don't need to, unless it was an excuse to talk to somebody. When Robert Scoble answered me, and we never talk by messenger. We're friends, but we don't talk every day, right? And so I send him this photo, and he answers me, and I'm going like, wow.
That's funny.
Robert sometimes doesn't answer.
So butt dials get high engagement. I think we can all agree.
That's it. We got guns, we got alcohol, and now we got butt dials.
Butt dials. I think we've solved everything, Warren.
I think we really have summed up what business is.
We have.
Yeah, you asked me to sum it up, and my knee-jerk reaction to that is what we started with people over platform. You want a bigger concept than that? You remember people over platforms? You got the world by the tail.
I think that's exactly
it. It reminds me of Think and Grow Rich, and I have a lot of experience with Think and Grow Rich. I actually we published a book and had a whole thing behind it. We're selling things to people called the new Think and Grow Rich about 10 years ago. 11 years ago, actually. And I've read Think and Grow Rich many times, and it's a classic. If you haven't read it, by all means, read the whole thing. And the updated one, I recommend the new Think and Grow Rich. It's got by Ted Ciuba, C-I-U-B-A, Cuba with an extra I in it. And what we got to was his whole reason to do this was to organize it, because there's 13 principles, and you'll get the 13 principles in 13 chapters. Whereas they're just kind of in there in the original Think and Grow It. So that was the way he taught it, and that's the way it was supposed to be. And it dawns on me that there's only one that matters. On about page 4 of the book, he's telling a story, and he says, this is what you're going to do if you really want to get whatever you desire. These are 4 steps to take. Go find Think and Grow Rich and read it. I'll paraphrase as best I can. Not good at paraphrasing things. I memorize them and then make up my own stuff as I'm telling the story. Number 1 is determine you want something, a specific amount of money, a specific time. Number 2 is lay out a plan of what you're going to do that brings that value so that somebody will give you the money. Number 3, intermediate goals or commitment to do whatever it takes. That's number 4. And I messed them up. I think I put 2 and 3 together. But anyway, that 4-step process is that. If you do that, it is find out what people want, see that they get it.
Yes.
That is the motto of the billionaires. All the rest is just entertainment. If you decide that what you're in life to do is to help other people, that's it. And, some of them may be harebrained schemes. Usually, I'm going to say you can get rid of it. Yes, thank you. Thank you for JS for letting us know that the principles are older than Think and Grow Rich. Jesus taught the same principles. It's in The Secret. It's what they found in Da Vinci Code. Exactly. It's in there, everything. It's like, be nice to other people. Treat people like you want to be treated.
The platinum rule. We're coming back full circle. Story arc.
Is it better to give or receive? It's much better to give. I think that was a hard one. I remember when Mom said, "Giving," I'm going like, "Well, wait a minute. I get up Christmas morning. I really like the gifts under the tree. That's pretty cool." I didn't know the parents had borrowed money and gone all out to spend way too much on us for Christmas. In my family, you didn't get a Christmas gift from Mom and Dad. Santa came and the living room was full. And, and that's it. And it's the most wonderful thing ever. And it's like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
By the time I'm 10 or 12, I'm going like, this again. Because, I was the oldest kid, and I'm not like, all right, gotta, don't say anything to JS. He believes in Santa.
Well, let's not tell him. Let's not shatter the illusion.
Yeah,
well, that's our time. Will you come back and chat?
Always.
This is
always.
fun.
I'll just not stop.
No.
What I've done is I've recorded this, and it'll just go in there, you nodding, and I will be talking to the screen. So whenever you want to come back to me, I'm here.
Well, I think the record for that is my really, really dear friend, Shell Israel, who is like, we sat on a board together, he and I, and I joke with him, I could just go get a cup of coffee at Starbucks, come back, and it would be like still going. But all right, so how can people get a hold of you? Where can they find you, Warren, to find all your good wisdom? What would you like to
on
send
the link below. Click on my profile link. Let's talk. Send me a message. We can talk. You could try Googling me. There's a couple of million entries in there now. I'm always online and I'm always talking to people.
And he's great. He does.
I do own WarrenWhitlock.com, which, comes in handy to have the old family name.
It does. And I will say, I can attest to this. Warren's very active on Twitter. He does get back. So at Warren Whitlock. And I am at Kathy Klotz-Guest, no hyphen. That's confusing. And you can also find me at keepingithuman.com. So you're going to have to come back here again, and we'll dissect and come up with some new terminology to replace sort of the militarized metaphors of the art of war. How about that?
Right. Oh, yeah. Oh, man. We can go for hours just on metaphors. I love to talk about metaphors.
Well, let's do that, because I think that could be fun. What would that coda look like?
Time.
Bye. Bye, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.